Hello and good afternoon, Laredo College. My name is Alan Cantu, and I am the president of the Trio SSS Club and your MC for today. It is awesome to have you guys here. Thank you so much for joining our Virtual Leadership Academy. As a side note, make sure you turn off your mics and turn on your camera. With that said, our speaker today, Juan Do, he has been speaking professionally for over 10 years. Juan is the recipient of the Verizon Wireless Motivator Award, the acclaimed author of Succeeding in the Real World, and a city finalist in the NBC's hit show American Ninja Warrior. You might have seen Juan recently when grocery shopping, as he is featured on the Lay's chip bags nationwide as a part of their Smile with Lace campaign. In addition to speaking, Juan enjoys constantly being mistaken for a college student. Recognized as the best youth mentor by the International Examiner and one of the 25 most influential people in Seattle by the Seattle Magazine. Please put your hands together and make some noise and help me welcome Juan Do.
Thank you so much, Alan, for the great introduction. As Alan said, my name is Juan, like Juan Carlos. I'm excited to be here with all of you. I'm curious, as we begin, by a show of hands, how many of you have seen the show American Ninja Warrior? How many have not seen the show? And how many are thinking right now, Juan, I'm staring at a screen. I'm not going to raise my hands regardless of what you say. Fair enough. Well, if you haven't seen American Ninja Warrior, it is a physically demanding obstacle course race show that has people doing crazy things like flying 10 feet above the ground or running up 14-foot curved walls. It is a week before competing on the show, and I asked my coach, do you have any last-minute tips for me? He said, yeah. Don't get hurt. I'm thinking, thank you, Captain Obvious. But as I go train, I land awkwardly. What happens? I snap my ankle. I'm thinking, OMG, you've got to be kidding me. The pain was so intense. Every time I tried to stand up, I would crumble to the ground. And all that went through my head was, Juan, your goal of competing on American Ninja Warrior is over. The reason why I shared this story with you is because I feel that it's a lot like life. You may not have a goal to compete on American Ninja Warrior, but maybe for you, your goal is complete your time at Laredo College, get your degree, and then go into a 4-year degree. Maybe for you, it's just finishing your time at Laredo College to advance your career path. Or maybe for you, your goal is how do you create meaningful connections in this virtual world that we're living in? Regardless of what you're pursuing in 2021, you will encounter OMG moments. You will have obstacles that will continuously trip you up as you pursue your goals at Laredo College and throughout the rest of your lives. But what I want to share with you is I believe your ability to succeed doesn't come down to your age, your background, what you know, what you have. What it really comes down to is that when challenging moments happen, like what we've been experiencing since the pandemic, when challenging moments happen, what are you going to do about it? You see, in our time here, I just want to share with you practical advice that will help you succeed in your time at Laredo College and then after your time there is over. In our time together specifically, you're going to discover how do you develop resilience when times get tough? How do you get back from those tough moments? How do you change your attitude when times get tough? How do you create meaningful connections in this virtual world we're living in? And other practical strategies that will help you towards your goals. Now, I know we're part of this Virtual Leadership Academy about seeing things through another lens. And I know for us, it's about leading with an edge. And what do we mean by that? Well, I have this coin here, right? And I'm curious, on a coin, how many sides are there to a coin? Let me know in the chat box right now. How many sides are there to a coin? Let me know in the chat box right now, right? Naomi, Jessica saying 2 sides. Everyone's saying 2 sides. Well, I'm here to share with you a different perspective, right? Just like Virtual Leadership Academy is doing, is help you see it through a different lens. I want you to see our time and leadership through a different lens. I realize there's 3 sides. There's a heads, there's a tails, and as our time, there's an edge. And our goal is to help you see things from a different perspective. And by doing so, it will help you to thrive during these times. Now, as we get started, I want to be very upfront and say, I'm not here as a keynote speaker to lecture to you. Why? Because it's never fun for someone to talk at you. I mean, How many guys would agree by show of hand or show of virtual hands that you've been on far too many Zoom meetings and events than you'd like? Show of hands, show of virtual hands. You be honest now. Yep, I see Maria. I see Alan raising your hand. I see Azada Pata 5684. I see you raising your virtual hand. I see Fatima. And I want you to know, I'm not here just to talk at you and for you to sit there and listen. I want you to think of me more as a friend, right? Think of me like as a funny, cool, amazingly good looking and humble friend that's just here to have a conversation. But to have a conversation, I'm going to need your help. You see, this is going to be a different type of experience, you realize, because I want you to know I can see every single one of you on my screen, right? What you can see is I can see Lizette, I can see Marilyn, I can see Natalie, even though you're on camera, I see Victoria, I can see Dari, I can see Dalia, I can see Rosario. And I want you to know that I can see you. Don't make me call you out. No, I'm kidding. But I want you to know we're part of the same conversation. If you can, turn on your cameras. We want to see you. Don't worry, our place is messy too. I'll show you with my camera, right? It's a hot mess around here, right? You can see down here, we're not super clean here. It's okay. So if you have the capability, unless you're driving, I don't want you to get in an accident, but if you can't turn your cameras, we want to see you. See, we see Delgado, we see Francesca, Valeria. And I want you to know, if you're not able to turn your cameras, it's also okay. You're still a part of this conversation as well, right? So I want you to know, for us to have a great time together, I'm going to need you to engage me. So there'll be times I'm asking you to raise your hands. There'll be times I might ask you to unmute yourself. There's times I ask you to enter the chat box. And the reason why is I just want you to sit there and listen because you've been through a lot of those events. I want you to feel engaged and a part of this conversation and realize that we're in this together. Okay, so if you're up for making this less of a lecture, but more of an engaging experience, if you're up for that, do me a favor, would you? Put both hands out like this. Put both hands out like this. And for those who are not on camera, I'm going to trust that you're doing this. Hey, Marlene, great seeing you there. Put both hands out like this. I want you to motion at me like this. Oh, actually, real quickly, unmute yourselves for me. Go and everyone unmute yourselves for me. This will make it more real. Unmute yourselves so you can all hear each other. I want to put both hands out like this.
And like this.
Motion at me like this.
I can hear you. Put your hand like this.
Yeah, you can have your kids involved too if you have them.
Oh.
Yell loud. One. Let's have a conversation.
Have a conversation. You see? Put your hand like this. Okay.
Awesome. I can't believe you guys actually did that. No, I'm kidding. If you could go and meet us. If you have a piece of paper, go down and what I want you to write down is this. When you think about since the pandemic, what is one word that describes how you've been feeling throughout that time, right? What is one word that describes how you've been feeling throughout the pandemic? On the piece of paper, I want you to write it down. If you're not on camera or you don't have a piece of paper, enter in the chat box so we can all see it. But please let me know on a piece of paper, what is one word that describes how you've been feeling since the pandemic has happened? Right, we got Mark saying bored, Raquel saying stressed, Marie's tired, withered, grateful, depression. If you on your piece of paper, I want you to take on the piece of paper, I want you to bring it up to the front of the camera so we can see your word. But for those who are writing, we see Isaiah saying lost, stuck, Allegra saying stressed, anxiety, right, bored, right? If you wrote on a piece of paper, bring it up to the camera so you see. We're feeling Fatima on camera saying tired and bored, right? We're seeing also with Alan, your cursive handwriting is very nice, but could you share that with us? I'm not really good at reading cursive, so I apologize for that. We're saying hopeful from Sarah, annoyed, anxious from Nora, stressed from Gina, right? Stress optimism. We got feeling stressed from Marlene. And what I want you guys to realize is whatever you're feeling, it's okay. It's not right or wrong. Valerie is also feeling stressed out. We're getting a lot of stress, overwhelm, a lot of unpleasant emotions, to say the least. But with that being said, I want to share whatever you're feeling, it's not right or wrong. And I think oftentimes when we're going through a stressful experience, people will often say, hey, you know what? It's going to be okay. Because you just need to have a positive attitude. Nod your heads for me if you heard that advice before. Right. I'm here to tell you that is the worst advice ever. Why? Because it's easier said than done. How many of you here put Y in the chat box for yes and for no have had one of those weeks where anything that could go wrong goes wrong? How many of you guys had one of those weeks before? All right, we're getting a ton of yes in the chat box, right? And let's say you see one of your friends come up to you, they say, hey, it's going to be okay. Because they say, all you need to do is have a positive attitude. Has that happened to you beforehand? Right? Some of you are probably thinking, oh, if someone said that to me, you're like, you just need to shut up because that is not helping my situation right now, okay? Because here's the thing, having a positive attitude all the time, it's easier said than done. But I think the second reason why it's challenging is that oftentimes a lot of people will pretend that everything's okay in life when things aren't. You see, one of my best friends, when we were going to college, I had a chance to go to a two-year school and also a four-year university, right? And one of my best friends came over and I knew something was wrong. Why? Because all of a sudden he walks in the room, he takes his textbooks and he just tosses it against the wall. And I turn around, I'm like, Chris, are you okay? He says, I'm fine. Obviously you are. I notice on the ground, his cell phone broken in half. I'm thinking, if that's what you do when you're feeling fine, let me know when you're feeling awesome because I don't want none of my stuff near you, okay? And he says, Juan, I'll be honest, man, school's just so difficult. My girlfriend and I, we've been fighting. My parents and I, we've talked for months. Life's challenging. And what I want to share with all of you is if you're going through a challenging time, you have moments where you're feeling stressed, you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay. You see, rather than trying to always be positive, I think what's more important is that you decide to have an honest attitude. And what that means is, one, if you're taking notes, you always acknowledge how you feel. Don't ignore how you feel. Do me a quick favor. If you could go to gallery view in Zoom for me so you can all see each other, or at least see each other's names. Do me a favor. Let me ask you by show of hands or show of virtual hands. How many of you have felt a little stressed out because you're unsure of exactly what you're going to do after you finish your time at Laredo College? How many guys are a little stressed out because of that? I want you to look around gallery view and see all the hands and virtual hands are raised and realize you're not alone. Who here has felt a little disconnected because we're all doing things virtually that you're like, man, I wish we could connect in person. How many of you guys felt disconnected at one point? Show of hands, show of virtual hands, right? You see all these hands pop up. My hope is you realize, one, you're not alone, but also two, that it's okay that you feel this way. And what I want to share with all of you is that the key thing is you want to acknowledge how you feel, not ignore how you feel. And the reason why is simply because we're like soda cans. What happens is as we go throughout the school year, life shakes us up, right? All of a sudden, the pandemic. All of a sudden now you're trying to go to school virtually, and it's just not the same, and you find it's difficult. These things shake us up, but like a soda can, let's say if you keep shaking up the soda can, but you don't release the carbonation that's inside of the soda can, I'm curious, what happens when you eventually open the soda can? Go in motion at me. What happens when you open the soda can? What happens? Right? It explodes. And that's unfortunately that's happening to too many people. So I want to share with you, whatever you're feeling, it's not right or wrong. The key is make sure you acknowledge how you feel, don't ignore it. And the reason why is because of this. There's this powerful saying that really impacted my life. Whatever you resist will continue to exist. Meaning if all of a sudden you're feeling overwhelmed, you're like, man, I want to do this assignment right now, and you go binge watch on Netflix, that assignment's going to be waiting for you. But now, since we're all virtual, let's say being at home and all of a sudden there's a certain relationship, maybe with a family member or a friend, that some things have happened. Well, if you don't have that courageous conversation and work through that, that tension's not only going to be there, but it can continue to grow. So whatever it is, make sure you acknowledge how you feel in healthy ways. Maybe for you, it's listening to music. Maybe it's exercising, talk to a friend, but always acknowledge how you feel. Do not ignore it. Number two is gain perspective, right? I think the reason why we have over 99 people at this event, which is absolutely incredible. And I'm glad you're here because by being here, hopefully you've noticed so far, is that by connecting with each other, seeing other people sharing their stress overwhelm, you realize you're not alone. And by connecting with people, it gives you perspective on your situation. I'll give you an example where my wife, she works as a registered nurse. And at the beginning of 2021 in January, she wasn't feeling well. She says, hey, I'd like to get tested for COVID. And when we got tested, she was positive. And initially she was really worried. She was panicked. She's lost some sense of her smell and taste, and she's really scared. And I said, hey, you know what? You have the right to feel this way. And she acknowledged how she felt. But what was key is then she gained perspective by connecting with other people she knew that tested positive for COVID. And by connecting these people, it did a couple of things for her. Number one, it gave her inspiration that, you know what, I can make it it's going to be okay, because she had friends that had it and then they felt better. The second thing that happened is, by gaining perspective, is that by connecting with her friend, she also realized that she wasn't alone. But also, what allowed her to do is that she also realized that, there's a lot of people that had far worse symptoms than her. And by seeing that, she realized, even though this was not a fun experience, she realized, you know what, there's things I could still be grateful for. So by connecting with people, it gives you perspective on the situation. Give me a 2 thumbs up or a virtual thumbs up if this makes sense. Fantastic, thank you. And lastly, is you want to make sure is you decide what you want and take action, right? How many here are still figuring out what career path you want to go into or what you want to study? Show of hands, show of virtual hands. Right? Okay. So if you're in that position, I want to share with you a strategy. I call it the shopping spree strategy. So what that means is, right, when you try to figure out your style of clothing, what do? You go to the store and you try on clothes, right? So you go on a shirt, doesn't fit well, you put it back on the rack. You know, different rack, you put it on, it fits well, but it's not cute. So you put it back on the rack. Then you try a different shirt, it fits well, you like it, you buy it. I want you to know it's the same thing with life. Life is a trial and error process. So if you have a lot of interests or passions and you're unsure, hey, which path am I going to choose? You got to try things on. And that's how you know if you like it. Some of you here, right, non-traditional students, where all of a sudden you've been out in the workforce and you're thinking, oh man, I have a better idea of what I want. Well, the reason why you know is because you tried things on. You found out what you liked and didn't like. But the key thing is this: give yourself the permission to try on different outfits. And if you don't like it, you can change it. I know we probably have some people on the call now where you've changed career paths. And the reason why is because you found it wasn't the right fit anymore. And what I want to share with all of you is that that's okay, right? Coming to this event, I know we're going to put in the chat box now. There's a lot of great events coming up, right? I know there's one on April 1st on how do you land a job during these virtual times, right? There's a lot of great workshops like this. And the only way for you to feel connected is to attend events like this, right? So in the chat box, it's going to be entered in. There's a lot of upcoming events in April that if you have a great time here, we're going to encourage you to sign up for those events as well, because by doing that, it's only going to support you with your time at Laredo College, but also to help you succeed after your time's over. Now, with all this being said, some of you are thinking, like, oh, this is a great idea. This is a great different perspective. You don't have to always be positive. The key is to have an honest attitude, right? So some of you might be thinking, they're like, oh man, but sometimes when things are tough, it's easier said than done. And I agree with you. And that's why I want to share with you a strategy, an actual technique you can use in your life right now that will help you adjust your attitude when times get tough. And this technique, it's called changing your playlist. Imagine this. Imagine you had a really tough day and maybe you're driving, and maybe you turn on the radio, or maybe you go put on your headphones and you notice your favorite song is playing. I'm curious, if it's your favorite song, what are you about to do? Let me know in the chat box. What are you about to do if it's your favorite song? What are you about to do? Come on, guys. This is the interactive part of our time. Help me out here, right? Oh my gosh, Delgado's saying, I'm going to dance. Sandra's going to sing her heart out. You're about to turn it up, right? Any stress you felt melts away. But check this out. The next song that comes up is a horrible, annoying, wax song that kills the mood. Are you going to continue listening to this song, or are you going to change it? Help me out, guys. Are you going to listen, or are you going to change it? Help me out here, right? You're going to change it. Well, here's the thing. Whether you realize it or not, we all have horrible songs or negative self-talk that plays in our heads. Songs that sound like this. You want to get an A in that class? You can't, because you're not smart enough. Oh, you want to get that job, that leadership position at school? No, you can't do that because you're not experienced enough. You can't do that because you're too young or you're too old. You can't do that because you're not something enough. And unfortunately, we're never taught how to change that negative self-talk or that song in our head. You see, part of my story is that I come from a family that escaped Vietnam after the war. My dad was a fighter pilot, and when the war was over, he was forced into re-education camp for 4 years until my mom broke him out. They immigrated to the United States, and we went to a place what was considered the top 3 most dangerous cities in the entire country. Growing up, we didn't have a lot. My dad was the sole income provider for our family. He worked hard And so for me, naturally, I wanted to grow up to make my parents proud, and that's so that I can take care of them. And going from high school to college, I am first generation college student. So I had a lot of pressure on me. And so going to college, everything looked great on the surface. I was a 3.7 GPA student. I was ranked top 10 in the state for wrestling. I got accepted to go to that four-year university, Pepperdine University, which was ranked one of the top 50 in the entire country. I was prom king, all that stuff. But what people didn't see was that oftentimes I felt depressed. I felt depressed because my wax song was that I was never good enough. And the reason why I believed this was because I had this problem. I would always compare myself to other people. I struggled with business calculus in college. No matter what I did, I just didn't get it. I went to tutoring. I got extra help from office hours. No matter what, I didn't get it. And what was frustrating, I look over to my classmates. It's so easy for them, so difficult for me. I was like, Juan, what's wrong with you? All of a sudden I hear in my head, boom, Juan, it's because you're not good enough. I had a chance in college to study abroad in Florence, Italy, right? So for me, just to give some context, we didn't have a lot of money, so I got financial aid, scholarships to go, and I had a chance to study abroad in Florence, Italy, and it looked amazing on the surface, but at the time I was so overwhelmed. Why? Because I didn't want my parents to worry about money, so I was working multiple jobs, washing dishes and doing different things so that I could have extra money to try to enjoy my experience, right? But then I was involved in different things at school, and I was feeling overwhelmed. And one day, all the students and I, we had procrastinated on finishing writing up a paper. So we all crammed into this computer lab to write this paper. By the time I got to the morning, I was the only one left in the room because I just couldn't function. I couldn't write this paper. I had maybe a page written when it was like a 12, 13 page paper. And rather than turning it in, I just told the professor, oh, I'll turn it in later. But every day that would go by, it was like the elephant in the room. We wouldn't talk about it. But every day that would go by, I could feel the stress building in my body. Every time I go to bed at night, I could feel the stress in my head. It was throbbing. It was like someone took a baseball bat and just hit it on the side of my head. And I was feeling so overwhelmed. At a point, I went to visit the school psychologist because I was just feeling that I was breaking down from all this pressure I was putting on myself, the pressures from life. And one day I was walking on this bridge and I was thinking, I can get rid of all these horrible emotions, the stress, the feeling overwhelmed, if I were just to walk off this bridge. You see, the reason why I had these suicidal thoughts was because when I was thinking, why is this all happening to me? Why am I thought I had everything together, but now I feel like everything was crashing in my world. When I kept asking myself that question, all I heard was, oh, Juan, it's because you're not good enough. Fortunately, a caring staff member reached out to me, just like the caring staff that work at Laredo College. And the staff member said, hey, Juan, what's wrong? He sat me down, and in talking with him, I just said, I just feel so overwhelmed. I feel all this pressure. I just want to make my parents proud. And he says, Juan, the only thing your parents want is for you to be happy. I said, no. If they wanted to be happy, they let me do this, 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 and this. They said, Juan, all your parents want is for you to succeed, to not make the same mistakes that they did, to not struggle like they did. All they want is for you to be happy. And then it clicked in my head. My parents, as immigrants to the United States, they did not have a chance to further their education. They had a middle school, high school level education. So coming here, they worked hard just to make ends meet to provide for my brother and I. And their definition of success was to not struggle like they did. And to do that, you gotta get yourself an education. And to get your education, because by doing that, you can get yourself a good job. By getting a good job, you can have more money. And by having more money, you don't have to struggle like we did. And of course, we went through our challenges of communication, but that's why my parents didn't get along, right? I'm not sure if you've ever had that experience, but what happens is when you talk about different generations, the different challenges they've experienced and different definitions of success. So mine was, I want to make a difference. I want to make a difference and help out this world. But for them, it's like, hey, make sure you take care of yourself. And this is one way to do it. Don't do it my way, do it this way. So we had this conflict. And what I realized is that the more I blocked away from my parents, you don't understand what I'm talking about, what I'm experiencing, the more our relationship did not improve. So as I shared with you at the very beginning, to share with you through a different lens, whatever you resist will continue to exist. Lean into challenges, don't run away from it, because the challenge will always be there waiting for you. So for me, I made a conscious decision, you know what, my parents, I don't see eye to eye, but let me have more courageous conversations with them. And what happened is our relationship started to improve. It didn't change overnight, but it got better. Why? Because when I talked to my parents, I said, hey, you know what? One of the things, if you like, this is something I really want to do. And the best thing you need to support me is to cheer me on, to encourage me. If it doesn't work, I'll try it your way, but I still want to have resentment towards you or any regret, right? And it did change, right? It's tough, but the more conversation had, the more improved. And I'll tell you, there's little things, right? I mean, going off to college, I mean, if you're trying to go, like, if you are planning to go to like, you know, a 4-year, I know for me, from my parents, Tom, from immigrant parents, like, it was scary for them because it was the unknown. It was different. So going to college, they wanted that. But for me, I wanted to go out of state. And my mom, being the loving mom, she's like, well, if you leave, who's going to make food for you? You're going to miss this delicious food of mine. Who's going to fold your clothes? She tried to guilt me. But that's what parents do. They're loving. It's just, we just view the world differently. And the only way we can improve our relationships is we have more communication. Problems don't happen because we communicate too much. It's because we don't communicate enough. The reason why I share this story with you is because this was one of many wax songs that I had to deal with in my life as my personal challenge, but also challenges with my parents immigrating from the United States and just the difference in thought patterns we have. And I'm bringing this up is because we all have wax songs. We all have a negative self-talk that plays in our head. And I'm curious, what negative self-talk is playing in yours as we are a couple months into 2021? Is your negative self-talk or wax song about your ability to succeed in school, in life, in this virtual times we're living in? Is your negative self-talk about your ability to make an impact at Laredo College in regards to stepping up into a leadership position? Or maybe for you, it's, you know, transferring and then getting that for education. Maybe for you, it's getting that job you want. What is that negative self-talk playing in your head? What I want you to realize is that these wax songs or this negative self-talk, it was written by something that happened in your past. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe someone said something mean to you. Maybe you had a setback in your life. What I want you to realize, though, is the past is the past. You cannot change it. But what you can change is everything moving forward. Because your past does not predict your future. The mistakes that you make do not define who you are. And your setbacks in life does not determine your future success. What does? It's you making that conscious decision to change that negative self-talk when it's playing in your head. So I'm going to share with you this technique, changing the playlist. What does that look like? Well, whenever you have that negative self-talk playing in your head, this is what you do. You simply say, hold up, that is whack. Some of you are thinking right now, no, Juan, that was whack. I know it's silly, but it works. And for 2 reasons. Let me ask all of you, when you laugh, do you feel better? Yes or no? Nod your heads if you feel better, or type in Y in the chat box. Yeah, you feel better. And here's the thing, when you feel better, you think clear and make better decisions when you're stressed out. By show of hands, show of virtual hands, how many would you agree when you're stressed, sometimes you say things and do things you do not intentionally mean? Exactly. So 1, it makes you feel better, you think clear, you make better decisions. Second reason why it works is because it is so random, it will make you temporarily forget about what is stressing you out. In behavioral psychology, it is called a pattern interrupt. I'll give you an example. Who here has, anyone here, I know, because we have a mix of traditional and non-traditional, who here has kids? Show of hands. Show of hands over here. How many of you guys have kids, right? How many of you guys have younger siblings, right? Can you remember a time, let's say, for the parents, when your kids are really small, really adorable, right? Or maybe for the siblings, when your siblings are really small, you're having a really horrible day, and all of a sudden, your sibling or child does something really cute and really hilarious and makes you laugh out loud. Have you guys remember those moments? Well, here's the thing. That is a pattern interrupt. You're stressed out and that cute kid sibling does something silly and makes you laugh. It changes your focus. Anyone here, do we have any pet parents? You guys, any pet owners here? Show of hands, show of virtual hands, right? Let's say you have a dog, you have a horrible day, dog comes up, to put your face in your lap. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, you start rubbing them, you feel better. Maybe you have a cat, right? They curl up next to you, you feel better. That is a pattern interrupt. So when you say, hold up, that's whack, it's silly, but it is a pattern interrupt because you're moving your body differently. You're saying something. And by saying that, it makes you laugh so that you can take a step back away from what is stressing you out. Does that make sense? Right? So I know it's silly, but again, it's a pattern interrupt. Now think about when you're listening to music. If you don't like a song, you got to change the song to one you like. So how do you do that in real life? Well, you say, hold up, that's whack, because the truth is, and you give yourself a reason why that negative self-talk isn't true. I'll give you an example. If you remember at the very beginning, I showed you that picture of my ankle where I snapped it a week before competing on American Junior. You guys remember that? So at that time, I had all this negative self-talk going to my head. Juan, you're such an idiot. How'd you make this mistake? You'll never have this opportunity again. It had all this negative self-talk. And I realized there's no way I can compete in the show. I was just feeling just down on myself. What I want to share with all of you is this. When you're going through a challenging moment, no matter how challenging a situation is, there's two things you can always control. If you're writing notes, this is what you want to write down. Number one, you can always control how you react to a situation. Number two, you can always control what you do about a situation, right? So think about, right, you can't control the pandemic. You can't control what people are saying about you, what other people are doing. If you focus on things that are outside of your realm of control, it can get really frustrating. But when you focus on what you can control, which is you, how you react, right? You don't do well on a test, you get really upset at yourself and you say, you know what? I didn't try my best. I know I can do better. Or you say, you know what? Oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. Why am I even trying? You can choose how you react, but then secondly is what you do about the situation. If you focus on those things, then you can feel more confident because then you can change what's in your realm of control, right? Nod your heads if that makes sense. Fantastic. So here's the thing. When you say, hold up, that's whack, it changes that song in your head. And so then you say, what's the truth? So for me in that situation, when I snapped my ankle, I was like, hold up, that is whack. Because the truth is, I eat problems like this for breakfast. When I said that out loud, I was like, ooh, yeah, I do. Because in that moment, when I said out loud, I remember a time in high school where I had a far worse wrestling injury. I'm thinking, wait a minute, if I made it through that, then I can make it through this. You see, I realized I don't know you personally, but what I do know is that you've been through some challenges in your life. And also you've overcome some challenges in your life. I'm curious, let me know in the chat box right now, what is something that you've overcome in your life? When you look back on, you're like, wow, I'm so proud of myself. Or when you look back and you're like, wow, that's so inspiring. Let us know in the chat box right now, what is something that you've overcome in your life, personally, professionally, that you are exceptionally proud of? You know, earlier on, I was sharing about my suicidal thoughts. I know when I started my business, we were talking about like just going into financial debt. What are some things? Or graduating from high school, having an affair, losing weight. What other things you've overcome? And I want to say is that thank you for those who are being so vulnerable. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Delgado. As they say, flunking out to making the dean's list. Learn how to talk positively, saving someone from drowning, getting first degree at such a young age. My hope as you see this is that you guys have done some incredible things. Sandra's saying, drop me out of college 2 to 3 times, next time finishing and graduating and pursuing further in the field, surviving a horrible car crash, learning to accept oneself, continuing studies, being open-minded. My hope is that you guys see is that one, it is possible to have fun and to make meaningful connections in this virtual world. But also number two is to realize is that you've overcome so many incredible things. And I thank all of you for sharing and having the courage to do that. And the reason why I ask you to share is for you to remember these things. Because what happens is our brains, how it works, it is easier to recall negative emotions in our lives. So when something happens like, oh my gosh, man, I'm not doing well in this class, man, why am I even trying? Or like, man, life is just really challenging. It's just too tough. When we're stressed out, we seem to focus in on what's stressful and we forget about all the incredible things in our lives. So again, the reason why this technique works is you say, hold up, that's whack. It makes you laugh so that you can take a mental step back, go into your long-term memory and remind yourself of all these incredible things that you're writing out in the chat box. Understand, it's not about being positive all the time and pretending everything's okay. But what's going to be more beneficial is that you have an honest attitude. You acknowledge, man, this is not fun. This is difficult. But then give a moment to remember these things in your life that you have overcome. And by remembering these things, you can draw on it to give yourself the confidence that you can continue moving forward. Go and give me a virtual thumbs up or a physical thumbs up if you are following me and you're feeling this. So understand this is when you say, hold up, that's whack, you change that song, but you have to give yourself many reasons. Why? Because when we have the negative self-talk playing, like, oh man, why are you trying going back to school? Why should you trust people when people have deceived you? Right? You have all this, it keeps playing in your head, so you have to change it. Right? It's like if you hear a whack song, like a Justin Bieber song, if you only change the playlist one time, the song will still be stuck in your head. Is it too late now to say sorry? Because I'm missing more than just your back. Don't pretend like you don't know the lyrics. Okay, back to my story, right? My ankle snapped. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I keep changing my songs in my head. So I was like, hold up, that's whack, because I got this. Hold up, that is whack, because the bigger the setback, bring it. The bigger the comeback. And as I said these things out loud, I started remembering back about the suicidal thoughts, the financial challenges, all the things I've been through in life. And I had this huge list of things I remembered. And then I realized, perspective-wise, like, oh, in comparison, I just have this ankle injury. Like, dude, I can make it through this, right? So then what had happened was I was changed my reaction. And what I decided to do was, hey, I'm gonna get physical therapy every single day until the show. By the end of the week, I was able to slightly walk, went to the show, and I made it to the city finals, which then aired on national television. I'm sharing this with you, not to impress you, but to impress upon you. This technique actually works. But don't take my word for it, though. I want you to try it out for yourself. Right now, I want you to think about, what is that negative self-talk in your head? What is that whack song? And I want you to repeat after me. Hold up. I'm sorry, you guys are just staring at me. Is there a leg here? Let's try this again. Go and repeat after me. Hold up.
Hold up.
Hold up.
That
Hold up.
Is whack.
is whack.
That is whack.
All right. Mi amigos, amigas, that effort was whack. Let me ask you, be honest with me. Scale from 1 to 10, 10 being you gave it all the energy you had, 1 being did not even try. How would you rate yourself? For those on camera, let me know with your fingers. For those who are not on camera, let me know in the chat box. Where are you at? Be honest with me, right? Raquel said 3 to 4. Yeah, Amy Rios, that is whack. Let me know. Let me know in the chat box and via hands. Where would you rate yourself? If you were to be honest with me, how would you rate yourself? Are we getting 5s and 6s? Jessica's saying 5, Mark's saying 4. Okay. I think we are all in agreement, right? Delia's saying 6. Valeria, did you say 3? Okay. Thank you for your honesty. Would you all agree that we could have done better? Nod your heads yes, or why in the chat box yes. Okay. Why didn't you do better the first time? Some of you are like, I wasn't ready. Some of you are like, I'm too tired. Some of you are like, I came to this event to make friends, not lose friends. Right? I'm sure that's all valid and true. But this is what I've noticed. I've done this with little kids and grown adults. And the reason why people don't give it their best effort that first time is because the fear of being judged. Oh, what if I look silly? What people say about me? Like, this seems stupid. I want to share with you is, unfortunately in life, you're always going to be judged, whether you like it or not. What is fortunate though, is that you have the choice to let go of people's thoughts. But if you're like me, if someone has ever said to you at one point in your life, don't worry what people think about you. That's like someone telling you have a positive attitude. That's easier said than done. So I'll tell you what's helped me to continue to let go of people's thoughts. It's about flexing that muscle called courage. What do I mean? I want you to think about your goals in 2021. I'm willing to bet that all of those things are going to require you to do something that's outside of your comfort zone, right? Maybe for you, it's talk to the person you like. Maybe it's applying for a job that you really want, but you feel, man, what if I don't get it? Maybe it's applying to go transfer to a four-year university that you really, really want, but you feel like your academics, your scores, involvement is not up to par. But here's the thing, the more times you do something that's scary, the easier it gets. It's like the more times you lift that weight, the stronger your muscle gets and the lighter that weight gets. So here's the thing, I'm going to give you an opportunity to flex that muscle called courage. And realize this, having courage is not having no fear. Being scared is normal. It just shows support to you. But courage is saying, you know what, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to give you an opportunity to flex that muscle called courage by doing this exercise again. But my challenge to you, you have to give it a level 10 effort. Are you guys up for that challenge? Looking at your body language, I say that your enthusiasm is overwhelming. Are you guys up for this challenge? Yes or no?
Yes.
Awesome. So here's the thing. All of us will do this, but I need a couple volunteers. Right? I'm gonna have 5 volunteers. If I could, if you'd like to volunteer, just say in the chat box, choose me. Or if you'd like to volunteer here on camera, just raise your hand. I'm gonna need 5 volunteers. If you'd like to volunteer, simply say in the chat box, choose me. Or if you're on camera, raise your hand. All right, Fatima Ponce, go ahead and unmute yourself. Right, who else, right? Enter the chat box or raise your hand. Raquel Puig. If I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, I apologize. Go and unmute yourself. Right, we have Maria Goretti. Go and unmute yourself. You need 2 more volunteers. Either you can be volunteer or you can be voluntold, your choice. Brenda, yes, Brenda, you don't see a last name. Get in the chat box, unmute yourself. Very good, very good. Let's get 1 more volunteer. Johanna Salas, go and unmute yourself. Very good, very good. So if I call on you, please go and unmute yourself. Awesome. So what's going to happen is all of us are going to do this. But for those who are unmuted, you're the ones that will stay unmuted. So Siobhan, if you could go ahead and start pinning the people who are our volunteers. I see Brenda here. I'm going to pin you so that everyone can see you, right? So we're all going to be in this together, but here's what's going to happen. All right, here's what's going to happen. We're all going to be doing this, right? We all are going to be doing this, right? All of us will be doing this together, but the ones that are volunteers, they're the ones that are going to be unmuted. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. In a moment, we're going to clap our hands to bring up the energy in our virtual room. I want you to bring up the energy. I want to be so loud that wherever you're at, let's say you're at home right now, and all of a sudden your brother, sister, parents are like, what are you doing? Hey, that sounds like fun. Can I be a part of that? I want that type of energy, okay? We're going to clap our hands. Once I get to 3, you'll stop clapping and you'll start repeating after me. Does that make sense? Yes or no?
Yes.
Awesome. So here's the thing. Everyone's going to do it. Yes, even you, Rosario, David, I know you're in your car. You are committed. Okay. We're all going to be doing this together. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yes.
I said, are you ready?
Yes.
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 All right, everybody, go and clap it up for me. Even those who are not on camera, I'm going to trust you're doing this. Go and clap it up. 1. Actually, let me do it. 1, 2, 3. Go and repeat after me. Hold up.
Hold up.
Hold up.
That's
That
whack.
is whack.
That is
Because-
whack.
Because
Because
I eat. I eat.
I eat
I eat
Problems
problem
Problem.
for breakfast.
for
for
breakfast.
breakfast.
And I say, hold up.
I said hold
And I
up.
said
Hold up.
That
That
is whack.
is whack. Is whack.
Because
Because
the bigger
the bigger
Bigger
the setback.
The
setback
setback.
setback
the bigger
The
bigger,
bigger
come back.
the come
Come back.
come back.
Do me a favor here.
Yeah.
Everyone go to gallery view. Everyone go to gallery view for me. Everyone go gallery view. I want you to both hands like this. And I want to give the people to the left and right of you a high five for a great job. Awesome, very good. Go ahead and mute yourselves for me. Let me ask you, for those who did volunteer, we want to commend you and give you an award for that, right? So Nora has a lot of different prizes, a lot of different swag, whether it's like headphones, shirts, different things like that. So if you volunteered, do us a quick favor. I want you to go ahead and message Nora, private message her. We'll put in her chat box as well. As this, I woke up my dog. I promise your dog's probably feeling better because they're awake now. Probably slept for too long. But for those who volunteered, email Nora or send her a private message, and she will coordinate with you to get you your prize that you can choose from for engaging and participating. So thank you for those who volunteered. Now, let me ask you guys real quickly. Did that feel a little silly? Yes or no? Why for yes and for no? Right? A lot of you saying yes, nodding your heads yes. Okay. Do you feel better though? Whether you're more awake, more relaxed, just better overall mood. Here's my thing. I know it's silly, but it works. And personally, I'd rather feel a little silly and be like, you know what? I feel so much better. I can move on with my day than being like, I'm too good to do this and continue feeling stressed out. So I encourage you, next time you're feeling overwhelmed, realize you don't have to always be positive. Have an honest attitude and be like, hold up, that's whack, to change your playlist, right? For any parents here, if all of a sudden your children give you some lame excuse or, well, mom, dad didn't do it, you're like, hold up, that's whack. It's universal. It can be used many different ways. So in addition to having an honest attitude, I think what will help you to succeed at Laredo College throughout the rest of your lives is realizing that life is a team sport. So number one, you're gonna have honest attitude. Two, you're gonna realize that life is a team sport. I want you to know that we're in this together, right? The back of your jersey might say Delgado, it might just say Sandra, Fatima, it might say Jacqueline, it might say Charlotte, Carolina, Raquel, but the front of your jersey, it's Laredo College. You are familia. We are here to support one another, but it's realizing people can't help unless you're willing to reach out and ask for it. A quote that I really love by Cesar Chavez, who is a massive actor, has made a difference, is he says that you are never strong enough that you don't need help. We all need support and help, but I think the challenge is too many people are afraid to ask for it. And I think it's because they feel that it's a wax song of like, oh, if I ask for help, it shows I'm weak. It shows I don't know what to do. They're concerned. And what I want to share with you is being vulnerable. It doesn't show you're weak. It shows that you're strong because it takes courage to do it. You see, for me, I used to be the type of person like, oh, I got everything together. It's perfect. I don't need any help. But I realized it didn't create connection. You know, you realize that I shared that my suicidal thoughts, the challenges that I went through, the reason why is because that's part of my experience. And what I've noticed is that when I lower my walls, people feel more comfortable to lower their walls. And that's the same thing with relationships. And I want all of you to know that if you want to create more meaningful relationships in your life during this time where we're socially distanced, is be more real, be more authentic, be more vulnerable with the people in your life. I want to share with you this quick story with my dad and I. This is a picture of my dad. You know how they have this saying of bring your kids to work day? Well, this is a bring your parent to work day. When my dad had retired a couple years ago, I brought him with me to one of my events in Georgia. This picture of my dad with everyone afterwards. And my dad is a very loving person. And my dad and I, we would always butt heads. And that's just us. And we wouldn't share our emotions with each other. And I remember one day he asked me, hey, Juan, can you transfer my music from my iPod, my phone to my iPod? I said, Dad, don't worry. A couple of weeks go by. And he says, hey, Juan, did you finish? I'm like, oh, Dad, I'm so sorry. I totally forgot. I've been traveling. I've been busy. And he gets really upset. He's like, oh, man, I just asked you this one simple thing. And you still haven't done. Don't worry, I'll do it. I had the audacity to get mad at my dad. No, Dad, I will do it. And it takes me forever to do it, but finally I finish it. And when I go and get ready to give my dad his phone and his iPod, I'm just overwhelmed with embarrassment. Why? Because I'm thinking, man, my dad has always been there for me. I am so lucky where My dad, he was a sole income provider. He'd leave at work at 5 in the morning. He gets home late. He'd help my mom to cook, to clean, anything he needed to fix. He's at all my activities I was involved in. He helped me with things, whatever I needed, he provided for our family. He amazing husband, amazing father. And I remember, like, as a kid, I would always ask my dad to buy me McDonald's French fries. I call him at work, and every time I call, he'd say, I'll do my best, but I can't promise you. But every time I called for him to buy me McDonald's French fries, he ring the doorbell, I run to the window, I open the window, and I see in his hand the McDonald's French fries bag. That's the type of my father my dad is. And I was so embarrassed because I was thinking, my dad has always provided for me, and I can do this simple thing. So as I give him his iPod, his phone, I said, Dad, I want to apologize for taking so long to do this. You provide everything for my life, and I'm so thankful for you. And I'm so sorry it took so long to do this. After I said this, he replied by saying, okay. I'm like, for real? That's it? I pour out my heart for you. That's all I get. A day goes by, and I remember he asked me to bring something to him, and I totally forget because I've been traveling. So my head wasn't present. And he gets really upset, like, oh, Juan, you always forget things. Like, I always remind you. I even called you. I texted you before, and you still forgot. I'm like, Dad, I just can't think right now. My head, my cabasa, it's just hurting. I just don't remember. And the next morning, he says, hey, Juan, I want to apologize for overreacting, for getting really upset. I can't imagine, you're just be so tired, and I want to apologize for overreacting. The reason why I'm sharing this with you is because my dad and I would never have a conversation like this. But the reason why I believe this happened was because I was willing to be vulnerable. I was first willing to lower my wall, and because of that, he's willing to lower his wall. What I want to encourage you is realize that we're in this together, and to realize it's okay to be vulnerable, to ask for help. And there's different ways you can be vulnerable. And this is what I want you to think about. Here's some ways. Number one, if you seem to have always things together, maybe it's asking for help and letting people know, hey, you're human, you don't have everything together. Another way you can be vulnerable is maybe there's someone that you did something unintentionally and it hurt somebody. Maybe it's apologizing to them. Or maybe for me, I feel the most difficult is to forgive someone. And forgiving is not pretending it didn't happen. It's acknowledging that it happened, but making a conscious decision to continue to move forward. But what I want to share with you is that there's different levels of vulnerability. But if you want to make more meaningful connections, whether it's a family member, a friend, a colleague, then the key is vulnerability. It's just reaching out. And what I want you to think about right now, and enter in the chat box for me, who is someone in your life that you'd like to be more vulnerable with? Someone that you would want to strengthen your relationship during this time. Who's someone in your life? I want you to enter in the chat box right now. Who is an individual in your life that you'd like to improve your relationship with during this time? Right, Fernanda is saying your mom. It's so beautiful. Darina is saying mom. Clarissa is saying my dad. Valeria is saying my dad. Maria is saying my father, my aunt. Liz is saying my brother, my stepdad, right, my grandpa. I want you to think about, what would you want to say to them? I want you just to ponder for yourself. What would you want to say to them to improve your relationship? And as you think about that, what I want to encourage you to do is to reach out to these people that you wrote down in your chat box. I mean, you guys know it, where for me, I realize time goes by so quickly. And you have it where all of a sudden, if you have someone that passed away, it's that reminder of like, hey, tomorrow's not guaranteed. And one of the things that I've had a lot of relationships in my life where like, oh man, the only thing that stopped us was to have that courageous conversation, right? And maybe for you, it's sending a text message. Maybe it's doing a FaceTime, writing a letter. If that person is no longer here, maybe it's writing a letter and just letting it be, but it's getting out of your system. What I want to encourage you to do, yeah, I agree, Anna, it can be awkward, but I promise you that whatever you resist will continue to exist. If your goal is to move closer, it's going to be uncomfortable. But remember, is if it's uncomfortable and you do it, it gets easier. My dad and I mean, he's been so emotional. I'm like, wow, but he hasn't been like that until our relationship changed, right? Exactly. Someone needs to break the silence. It just takes one person. And one thing I've learned about relationships, like one thing my wife and I, we learned about this idea And I want to share it with you because I think it can be helpful. It's called the crazy cycle, right? This happens not only in a relationship, but just in like intimate relationship, but just a relationship in general, right? If someone's upset and also they bring that energy, you're like, whoa, right? And they do something mean and you didn't do anything wrong. You're like, wow, if you're mean to me, I don't want to be nice to you. That kicks off the crazy cycle. And understand, it just takes one person to jump off the crazy cycle. And this is with you, is like, hey, you know what? People may be quiet, don't want to talk, but you can't control what people are doing, but what you can control is you. So I promise you, if our time together, if there's one thing you do that can really help you during this time, at least with the important relationship in your life that you guys are beautifully sharing about father, mother, stepdad, brother, sibling, or with yourself, is to be more vulnerable. And I want to encourage and invite you to reach out, whatever way that looks like for you, to improve that relationship, because that's what's in your control. Now, with our time winding down here, I want to respect your time. I want to ask you guys if you have any questions or thoughts. Why? It's not about me. This is about you. I had a chance to just speak with Nora, with Carmelita beforehand, to really prepare for our time to make a personal message to all of you here at Laredo College. But I want to open up to any questions you may have, things that I can support you with, things we didn't cover, or maybe it's a situation you're going through. But this is a no holds bar. You can ask me any question that you want. If you have a question, I just simply ask you to physically raise your hand or virtually raise your hand. I'll call on you, and then you'll have the floor, and I'll do my best to support you. So any questions and thoughts regarding our time together? And you also can answer the question in the chat box as well. Any questions or thoughts regarding our time together? Darina, thank you. I'm glad you felt that this is something you need to hear. Fernanda, you're welcome. Glad you love this, Fernandez. So any questions or thoughts? Fatima, feel free to unmute yourself.
At the beginning, I don't know if it was at the beginning, but you had mentioned how you had been feeling overwhelmed. At that point of your life, what made you react, like, or what made you change your way of thinking? Because honestly, right now I am very not indecisive, but worried about whether I would be able to get into the nursing program or like do the things that I want to do. But and it always comes back to the same thing: I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough to do it. And well, I just wanted to ask you that what made you like turn everything around in your life?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Beautiful question, Father. So, like, what made everything turn around in my life? This is me being real because you asked that question. Two things. Number one, my faith. That's hands down, right? Faith was a huge part when I felt like, dude, I'm done, like suicidal thoughts. That was it. Faith was important. Family and friends, my 3 F's. That's what made a difference in my life, because I realized like I was a very independent person. And something I got from a friend was like, hey, Juan, when do you ask for help? I was like, oh, I used to ask for help when I'm like, oh, dude, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. He said, well, why do you wait till the very end when you're breaking down to ask for help? Why don't you ask for help for the little things? Why don't you ask for help every day? There's nothing wrong to ask for help. It's just, I had that negative self-talk, that wax on. Like, if I ask for help, then what does it say about me? People judge me. It shows I'm weak. So for me, when I realized I'm not alone, I was feeling overwhelmed because I was trying to do everything myself, and I kept it in myself. So when I started acknowledging my emotions and then sharing it with other people, that's when I started getting support and the help I needed. And that's what I'm going to share with all of you, is that we can do a lot on our own. I know you're wickedly talented and smart, that you've overcome a lot of things that you obviously shared in our time together. But man, it's so much easier if you lean on another person or one another. And that's what I'm constantly reminded of all the setbacks in my life. The big things that pulls me through is not trying to do it by myself, by having my faith, my family, and my friends involved in that process. So what I encourage you to do is whatever's in your heart or that's going in your life is like, who are some people that you can reach out to, right? Maybe it's the staff at Laredo College that are there to support you. Whatever it is, just reach out for help, because man, it's like carrying all that weight in your own shoulders versus someone say, hey, let me help you carry that. It's gonna be a lot easier. So that's what helped me through it. And my hope is that that can support you as well. Awesome. Thank you, Fatima. Great question. Other questions or thoughts regarding our time together, right? If you want to ask a question, just raise your hand or raise your virtual hand. I know we have two people, like, I know we have Jessica and Kayla. I'm not sure if your hands are still raised from previously. If it is, then cool. If you want to ask a question, you can unmute yourself. Any other questions or thoughts as we wind our time down? Very cool. Okay, so if you know the chat box, if you had a great time with us, guess what? There's more incredible events like this that Laredo College is putting on. So you'll see the speaker series. I would highly encourage you to plug in more so that you can connect with one another and hear the other great speakers as well. Also, if I can support you in a way, you can reach out to me at thatiswhack.com. For real, thatiswhack.com. You can connect me on social media if I can support you in any way. But please, if I can support you, please reach out. I figured out this was my calling when I was a junior in high school. And I pursued this path because I thought I could take real life information, but share it in an interesting way that people can relate to. But more importantly, the reason why I do this is I want you to know there's people out there that genuinely care, that are willing to help with no strings attached. So if I can help you out, please feel free to reach out. If the staff, if they can help you out, Nora, Carmelino, Amber, these individuals can help you, please feel free to, because they're there to support you. Be plugged in, right? There's a lot of events coming up from April 1st on about landing a job in the virtual times in chat box. We got Turn Your Passions into Profit on the 2nd. 27th is a workshop on growing your dreams. 15th, leadership with AI and leadership. I'm not sure about all of you, but I mean, those seem awesome. If I were you, I would go there now and try to register because it can be crazy like this and this packed out. So please stay connected. Let us know we can support. And as our time winds down, I'm going to end with this. Check this out. I got two $1 bills. They represent us as individuals. Your ability to succeed doesn't come down to your age, your background, where you come from. What it does come down to is when challenging moments happen, realize, what are you going to do in the moment? I want you to know, number one, you don't have to always have a positive attitude. What's more beneficial is having an honest one, acknowledging how you feel, gaining perspective, and deciding what you want and taking action. Secondly, it's realizing that life is a team sport. We are all a part of Laredo College. And the only way that people can help out is if you're willing to reach out yourself. Make sure you reach out to that loved one that you want to build a more meaningful relationship with. Because here's the thing, information is not going to change your life. It's you applying it that will change your life. So make sure you say, what are you going to do after our time together? Text message that person, reach out to Nora to say, hey, I want to be involved in more events. Maybe it's signing up for a speaker series, but take action, because that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to help you to move forward. If you're willing to implement what you learned here today, I believe your success will increase 5, 10, or possibly 100-fold. Amigos, amigas, me llamo Juan Doe. It was so awesome to spend this time with you. I'm going to throw it back to Alan as he's going to close us out. But guys, thank you so much. I wish you the very best. And let's go ahead and welcome Alan back up.
Okay, so one last thing. I encourage you guys also to join our next Virtual Leadership Academy and our speaker series. If you have any questions about that, you can always contact Student Life. And thank you so much for joining us, students, and especially you, Wando. It was awesome. It's awesome to always hear, to be open with us. It's always a very interesting and unique experience. This concludes our Virtual Leadership Academy. Have a wonderful day.